All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Through the Whistle Sports. Today it is me. My name is Campbell, and I'm with my partner Joseph, and we're going to be talking about the NBA lottery and what we think the needs of the teams in the lottery are, as well as who we think would fit that need in the draft if they were to choose them. So that's basically it. I'm going to talk about the Magic first. I actually really like the Magic at the number one slot because personally, for me, I think that they have a lot of young talent. With Franz Wagner, they now have Jalen Suggs, um, Cole Anthony, and a lot of people are still not thinking about him, but Markel Fultz. He's also still
hmm
very young. Um, and another guy who didn't play all year was Jonathan Isaac. That's because he tore his ACL. But I think that they have a really good team off that. And now that they have the number one pick, Joseph, who do you think that they should draft?
So the interesting thing about the Magic is they have a lot of really somewhat talented young guys. Like I could see maybe four of those guys becoming all-stars at some point in their career. But the thing is, which one of them is going to do it? And that's my question for them. I don't know if any of them are going to be perennial all-stars. Franz Wagner, as much as I love him, I think he has a pretty low ceiling, like right around one or two-time All-Star. Wendell Carter, as much as I like him, I
Yep.
think his ceiling is like a one or two-time All-Star. Cole Anthony, I don't know if he can get an All-Star game. Cole Anthony was one of my favorite prospects, but I don't know if he can get an All-Star. Markel Fultz, same with him. Then they have like bench guys, RJ Hampton, all these guys, they need that number one option. And you look in this draft and you look at the positions they have, the positions they need, and you're looking number one option. As much as I think this guy has the lowest floor of nearly any prospect in this class, you cannot pass up on the playmaking ability of Chet Holmgren.
Yep.
Like Jabari, sure, he has that scoring. Paulo, he has that down low, gritty toughness. When you look superstar, when you look unicorn, when you look franchise altering moves, Chet Holmgren is the number one guy in this class that I look at and I'm like, he is him.
Yep.
He has that opportunity to really turn around a franchise. And if you look at the past Magic number one overall picks, they have had three in their franchise history. Shaq, Chris Webber, Dwight Howard. What do all of those people have in common? They were tall, athletic, big men. Now, you could argue Paulo fits that mold. You could argue Jabari fits that mold, but I think the real big man in this class is Chet Holmgren. So that's who, if I was the Magic, I would probably take a pick one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they now have their guards, even with the low ceiling that some of them have, they're still very good with Cole Anthony, Markel Fultz, Jalen Suggs, RJ Hampton, Gary Harris. Like that's a really good guard class, and they're all very young. Um, the top prospects in this draft aren't guards, anyways, but I think that a forward, um, or someone like Chet Holmgren would definitely help.
hmm
Um, yeah.
Wendell Carter has really exploded at that four spot this year.
Yep.
So if you can avoid having to move him back to the five, like Mo Bamba's a free agent this year, and obviously he's restricted, so you can still bring him back. But if you can avoid needing to play Wendell Carter at the five, I think you're doing a good thing, not only for your team, like for your franchise as a whole, because there's just so many big men options this year. Like if they draft Paulo, who plays the five? Are you looking at small ball? I think all these other guys besides Chet bring in a ton of question marks as
Yeah.
far as where are we going as team building.
Yeah, and I think that Paolo would help only if they wanted to do a small ball, but if Wendell Carter stays at the four, Jonathan Isaac is right now listed as a four spot, but having Chet Holmgren 7 feet tall, putting him at the 5 would definitely help. Um, Especially with like height and rim protection as well as his 3 point shooting. I think that would work very well.
And they need that solid guy, so I think Chet's the pick there.
Yep.
Speaking of team building, a team that has taken a completely different route from almost any team in history, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have two
Yes.
lottery picks this year, number 2 and number 12. I don't know what they're going to do with those picks. They've had the emergence of a lot of different players, right? So they drafted a ton of people because they just got so many picks
Yep.
from all the deals that they have done. So right now they have Trey Mann, they have Shea, they have Giddy. Those are three guards that I think have all-star ceilings. Ceilings. Now, do I think Trey Mann will be an all-star anytime soon? Probably not. That's where they are. And when you look at their forwards, it's like Darius Baisley, who played really well at the end of the year, but
Yep.
I don't think has a very high ceiling. Can you name a center on the Magic? I think, or the Thunder. I think Derek Favors was there.
Isaiah Roby and Jeremiah Robinson Earl, as well as Derek Favors.
Both of which I see as backups in the long term, to
Yep.
be perfectly honest with you. So I think Paulo is kind of that guy. One of the things I said when I first watched Paulo was that he needs a guard. The
Yep.
way he plays, he is like the perfect pick and roll partner. You can't ask for a better one. He has such a high ceiling with an elite point guard. This man with Chris Paul would look like Giannis.
Yep.
That is how good he looks with an elite point. How good I believe he would look with an elite point guard. Now, you out the gate, Giddy has been a shockingly good passer. I don't think anybody
Yep.
expected him to be that good right out the gate. Last year's draft class was unbelievable. I didn't expect it at all. And the passing, the development of Josh Giddey would be helped by having a guy like Paulo on that team.
Yeah, and I think Josh Giddey, Shea, they also have Lou Dort, who had to cut his season short because of shoulder injuries.
They cut
Darius
everyone's season
Baisley,
short.
that is true. But also Darius Baisley, who down the line or even in the next coming years could be a good trade asset if they wanted to go that route. Isaiah Roby could be a decent backup, but definitely not a starter. And I think that
The thing about Isaiah Roby is I like his game. He's just
yep.
6'8" and he plays as center. It's a questionable role.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at these past few games currently, like he was averaging like so many different time or like minutes. Like April 5th, he played 43 minutes, and then the next game 26, and then the next game after that was just 14. Even with the injuries right at the end of the year, it might have just been to pull him, but I don't think that he is the answer at the 5 spot for the Thunder. And I think
Nah, he's not.
yeah.
And it brings up the question, at what point are the Thunder going to start using those draft picks to go out and get talent? Because if let's say they don't like any of the top guys in this class, you know how much the number 2 overall pick could probably get you on the open market? Like everyone says superstar, right? Everyone's always looking to build through trades. We've seen it with the Nets, we've seen it with the Sixers. I'm not going to get into the playoff struggles of either of those teams, but everyone says superstar. What if they traded the second overall pick for a above average young starter and draft capital? Like why do trades always have to be, we're going to go out and send 1,000,000 first round picks for Anthony Davis, we're going to go out and
Yep.
send 1,000,000 first round picks for James Harden? Why can it not be as simple as we're going to move down in the draft, we're going to pick up a above average starter to bolster our strong core? Because that's what the Thunder have. They have a very strong core, and if they can't start hitting super big on those picks, question how long Shea is going to stay there. I question how long Giddy's going to stay there because they need more talent on their roster now.
Yeah, but I also think at the same time, if they don't do that, they could still continue to develop. Um, I'm looking at all of the ages of the people on the roster right now, and the oldest person is 30 years old. Actually, there's two people that are 30, and then the next
And
guy
that's
is
skewed though, because
27.
neither of them. That's
Yeah.
skewed though, because none of those three guys are like been top 5 players on their team.
Yep. And you know, the talent is much different, but I sort of see in terms of ages, I see a comparison to the Memphis Grizzlies. Maybe not in terms of talent and how much they are able to do, because obviously the Grizzlies got the number 2 seed this year. That's really good. But I do see time in terms of that young core, that at some point some of their top players could hit their peak and they could sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's just all about when. It's all about timing for the Thunder, and I think they have to hit the aggressive button at the right time. Not too early, not too late. You need to make sure your star players are happy, and I trust Sam Presti to do that. If there's anything I want to say, I trust their general manager to make the right decision.
Yep.
More than almost any other GM in the league.
Yeah, and yeah, there's the next. Well, for the number 3 pick, that was a very interesting one, especially with the top 3 players in this draft being forwards. I think that the Houston Rockets actually landed themselves a very good draft spot, right where they want to be, even if it wasn't the number 1 pick. I think that where they are at number 3 suits them very well.
I think they can be defended if they make a mistake.
Yep.
Like there's a top 3 in this class, and I argue there's a top 5 rather than a top 3, but I see the vision of, okay, if we make a mistake here, you guys can't really be mad at us if we take the census number 3 pick.
Yep.
It's the same thing with Jalen Suggs falling to Orlando last year. They took him at 4. He was supposed to be like, well, they took him at 5. He was supposed to be the solidified number 4 pick.
Yep.
And he hasn't been good. But I don't blame the Magic for taking them despite their abundance of guards, despite the other players on the board. Like Giddey was on the board, he's clearly better. That would have been considered a reach, and if it blew up in their faces, everyone would have made fun of Magic. I see this 3 spot as like good spot to where if they mess it up, you can't yell at them too much.
Yeah, and I think that they have a lot of a very good core in Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Christian Wood. Like those 3 are the building pieces of the Houston Rockets roster. And another thing, John Wall is still one of the highest paid players in the league, and he's sitting out right now. And so what are you going to do with him if you can at all is going to be interesting.
I don't know if you can do much. I think you got to wait that contract out or hope the Lakers get desperate and send you a draft pick for him. I think the Magic or the Rockets would make a very big mistake here if they don't take one of Jabari or Keegan Murray.
Yep.
The reason for that is they don't have a guard that can play make enough to get Chet or Paolo involved. And if they take Aiden Ivey here, they're just taking another 6'4" scoring guard. And I know I really like Ivey. I think he's a super high ceiling. What you're doing is you're stacking your roster with guards just like the Magic did, and that has not worked very well for them. They were tied the worst team in the league last year. I think you have to get one of those wings who can play by themselves, even if their guards aren't facilitating for them. Because what have we seen from Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. Minus like the last month of the season, they were unable to play make.
Yep.
You can't bring in a center who needs center or a power forward in Chet Paolo who can't play make, can't make plays on their own. In my opinion, I maybe that's a hot take, but I don't think Paulo's good enough to come into the NBA and immediately make plays on his own.
No, I think he absolutely needs help, and maybe it could have just been end of the year, people getting ready for the playoffs, people starting to tank. That's why Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green started doing well. It could also be that they started to develop, although I don't highly doubt that. I think it's a mixture of both. Teams started to tank as well as they also started to improve. But they're going to be big focal points along with Christian Wood again on this roster.
I wouldn't be surprised if Christian Wood gets moved. Maybe that's a hot take, but I don't think. I think if the Blazers are trying to contend around Dame and they decide, hey, we'll throw you a future pick and Josh Hart, I think Rockets say yes to that. I think Christian Wood, there was the report of Christian Wood and Kevin Porter Jr. yelling at the coach mid-season. I feel like they haven't extended him. I think Christian Wood is kind of on the out here.
Yeah, and plus he's 26.
Last year they traded up. They traded up to take Alperen Sengun, who I think is like in a lot of ways, except without the insane wingspan.
Yeah, and now for the number 4 pick.
Do you wanna start by complaining, or should I?
You know what?
You go ahead. You go ahead.
I'll start.
I'm just gonna sit back and watch the show.
So hold on, let me even pull up Sacramento's roster because, I don't know what Sacramento was doing in the first place. I mean, they traded away Tyrese Halliburton for who? Domantas Sabonis, who isn't a bad player in his own right, but giving up future All-Star and Tyrese Halliburton. The Pacers absolutely won that trade. That was during the year. I don't see how that helps De'Aaron Fox at all. And with the number 4 pick, the top 3 forwards should be projected to be gone, and that leaves, what was it? The number 4. It was a guard. I forget his name.
It's Jaden Ivey or Keegan Murray will likely be on the board. I actually don't mind selection of Keegan Murray, but what I will be frustrated with is if a guy like Paolo falls to 4. I think that Paolo needs that playmaking guard, and if you take Paolo and then you do the same things you just did with Marvin Bagley, like, what are you doing?
Like,
you're the Kings. I get it. You're allowed to make mistakes. Yes, I don't know what direction your franchise is going in. Imagine making a contending move at the deadline and then ending up with the number 4 overall pick because you were so bad that you couldn't win in the last month of the season.
Yeah, and people were starting to think...
They won 2 games.
Yeah, and they were starting to think, maybe Tyrese Halliburton is the answer, not De'Aaron Fox. And
I saw a million De'Aaron Fox trade packages.
Yes.
And then it came out that they were trying to send Tyrese Halliburton, Harrison Barnes, like 3 first-round picks for Ben Simmons.
And not to mention Buddy Hield as well.
Yes, I forgot Buddy Hield.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I don't know what they're doing. And NBA, how do you let this happen? How do you reward this?
Yeah, I don't.
I know. Maybe the draft
upset.
isn't rigged. Maybe the draft isn't rigged, like the lottery. But man, it feels like they're doing whatever they can to reward the teams who try to be competitive in some way. Like giving the Kings the number 4 overall pick after they traded away a young guy to take on more salary, and I believe they had to pay the luxury tax because of
Yep.
it.
And they said that, Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox, because they're both guards, that they wouldn't be, or that they weren't a great fit, and that's why they traded him. But I don't
Mhm.
see De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis getting to the playoffs anytime soon.
The other thing, I don't see De'Aaron Fox and their number 8 overall pick from last season, Davion Mitchell,
Yep.
being good fits as well.
Yep.
De'Aaron Fox missed like the last 2.5 weeks. You know who stepped it up in those last 2 weeks? Davion Mitchell.
Yep.
Everything they do, I'm like, that's such a Kings move. That's such a terrible decision. Wow, I can't believe you would make that decision. Oh my gosh, I could do better as a GM than you. What are you doing? And with most teams, if I ever say that, I'm wrong.
Yep.
Like when the Pelicans made the CJ trade, I'm like, what are we doing? We just made a win now move. We're literally the 11th seed. The Lakers are above us. The Lakers have LeBron and Anthony Davis. We're so screwed. We're gonna miss the playoffs. The Blazers are gonna get a 5th overall pick, and we're gonna look like idiots again.
Yep.
I was wrong. We made the playoffs and got 2 games on the Suns, the number 1 seed Suns, the 60-win Suns.
Could have gotten more.
Could have if Chris Paul didn't have a perfect game. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the Kings know how to make bad decisions, and everyone is aware of it,
And
and the
it's going to be
NBA
a
just
tough.
doesn't care.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough to find who or what they need, because they need everything, and yet we don't know whether they're buying or whether they're selling.
I listened to an interview at the deadline from the Kings general manager, and he said he doesn't like to trade draft picks, which makes sense because the Kings always suck, and the last time they did trade away draft picks, gave away top 10 lottery picks. So
Yep.
it makes sense, but it's just this is not the team I wanted to jump up. If there's a
Yeah.
team I wanted to jump up, it's like, oh, the Spurs to number 1 to take Chet. That's an interesting storyline.
Yep.
The Knicks get a top pick, and people finally, I get to hate Knicks fans again because they're not bad. And oh, the Hornets get their solidified center.
I would have liked to see the Wizards jump up to 4.
Yeah, you're the only one.
But yeah,
Like,
one last note is they also don't have anybody at the 3 position, right? Well, at least for long term.
yes,
They
which is
have,
why I say Keegan Murray's their best option. But
yeah.
Harrison Barnes is still there, but he's like, what, 31, 32 at this point?
I think he's turning 30, yes. And then
You
Justin
know what's
Holiday is 33. Jeremy
no.
Lamb is 29.
Oh my God, I forgot they got Justin Holiday and Jeremy Lamb in that deal. They're
Yep.
both free agents, right? Or does Justin Holiday have one more year?
Let me.
I think Justin Holiday has one more
Yeah,
year.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Moving on to number 5, the most disappointed team, the Pistons. They got the 5th pick after
Yeah.
being second worst. And you know what? I'm here to say to Pistons fans, don't be disappointed. You want to know why? Your team has messed up so many draft picks, right? You took Stanley Johnson. I'm not going to bring up all the bad picks. You have Andre Drummond, Luke Kennard at like 13, but who isn't a bad player, but he was bad for you.
Yeah.
When you have the number 5 pick and the top 5 prospects are like solidified, you can't mess it up.
Yep.
Nobody is going to blame you if you take Jaden Ivey and Jaden Ivey turns out to be terrible. Nobody's going to blame you if Chet miraculously falls and you take Chet and he turns out to be everything all the media says he is, that he's bad, he's slow, he's stocky, he can't jump. Like, nobody's going to blame you no matter who you pick unless you pick somebody who isn't top 5.
Yep.
The Pistons made the right pick last time and they took Cade. When there is a solidified top 5, when there's a solidified number 1 overall pick, teams do not mess that up. It's when there are like prospects who are like all right there the teams mess it up. It's when Anthony Bennett gets picked number 1. The
Yeah,
Pistons will not mess this up. I'm confident in that. And if they
yeah,
do, it's not their fault.
yeah, and I think they have really good players to build around, like Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham,
I
Shadiq
love
Bey.
Killian Hayes. I
Um,
loved Killian Hayes coming out of the draft. I had an
yeah.
awful take. It was like Killian Hayes is Luka Doncic 2.0, which is just in it's it was really bad, but now I think he's Marcus Smart 2.0, and I love
Yeah,
that player comparison because I think you need a Marcus Smart or a Drew Holiday on every championship level team.
and at the same time, Jeremy Grant is getting trade offers. They could get a nice
Yes.
package for Jeremy Grant. They have
Yes.
Kelly Olynyk, who is old, uh, can be a somewhat of a good mentor. Isaiah Stewart, and also Marvin Bagley.
Who they didn't really revive his career. Like I've seen
Yeah,
some Pistons fans say, "Oh, we revived Marvin Bagley's career." Not really. Like I watched games with Marvin Bagley. He had like one really good game and like two solid ones. But other than that, he's been eh. And like I've seen even Piston fans admit, like, stop acting like Marvin Bagley is God. If we pay him more than 10 mil, I'm going to do something bad.
yeah,
But Sadiq Bey, Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, and whatever player they get, I really like that core. I think it's like you're starting to build something. And in like 2 to 3 years, when you have when you have $50 million in cap space and Cade Cunningham is all-star starter, I know Detroit's not a flashy destination, but like, hate to come back to the Pelicans, but CJ McCollum requested be in New Orleans.
yep,
He wanted, if he was going to get traded, he said, "Hey, I want to go to this young team that is thriving right now that looks like they need a leader." Just to say in 3 to 4 years, Jokic or Embiid or one of those guys isn't like, that's where I want to go play.
yeah, and they very well could. Because I do like Cade Cunningham's development. They were heavily underfavored in a game against the Nets, and they were right up with them for 3.5 quarters until the Nets took it away. But that was still a very good game. Not to mention Shadiq Bey. I actually watched him drop that 50 bomb. The only
On
NBA
the night,
game,
on the night of the NCAA tournament, I was so disappointed I didn't watch that game that
and
I
I
watched
watched
it
that
back that
game,
night.
and I watched that
Watched it back
game.
that night.
That was nice. But yeah, next up to the Pacers with the number
Hey,
6 pick.
this is a disappointing spot for the Pacers,
Yep.
and let me tell you why. They need a good pick and roll option with um, Tyrese Halliburton. When you look at pick 6, there is nothing here.
Yeah.
Nothing here. I do not like any of these guys as pick and roll options. Jalen Duren, you have um, you have him already. His name is Miles Turner. Jadon Sharp is an incredibly big risk. AJ Griffin, I don't know enough about AJ Griffin to say no. I've watched like two of his games. Johnny Davis is literally who you took last year. He is Chris Duarte, except he's like 2 years younger,
Yep.
which isn't saying much because Chris Duarte was a 24-year-old rookie. Jason Daniels is another guard, and you have Malcolm Brogdon, Benedict Mathurin, maybe, but you have like you have everything you need here. So maybe this pick ends up being a big reach. That might be my take, that the Pacers reach here. They take somebody who was projected like pick 15 later in the lottery, but they take them early because they want their guy. And usually when that happens, it ends up being an okay pick.
Yeah, and some of their moves, as well as some of their aging players, they actually uh, traded for Ricky Rubio, uh, who may not even play this year. But he's 31. He just tore his
Yeah,
ACL.
Okay, that was a trade for a pick. They traded it for the Cavs first rounder, but there was lottery protections on it, and they
Yeah.
expected it to be there. I believe they get 2 second rounders now, which isn't bad compensation.
Yep.
Ricky Rubio is probably going to leave this offseason.
Yeah.
I just have a lot of role players still, which is something that's been said about them for like 4 years now. But this
Yeah.
time it's like, okay, I could actually see them moving on from Malcolm Brogdon. I could actually see them moving on from Buddy Hield. I could actually see them moving on from Miles Turner. And I think where they're going to have to hit is with the picks they trade away from those players. I'm not sure you go out and look for your superstar at pick 6. I think you do another year of tanking and hope you can get your guy next year. Um, just accept that maybe you need to hit some sleepers this year.
Yeah, and I think TJ McConnell missed most of the year. They really liked him because of his spark coming off the bench, but he's also 30 now, going on 31. I wouldn't be surprised if either he gets traded or he just moves on from the team in general.
This
Um,
is why everyone said the Pacers needed to blow it up earlier, because I bet you
yeah,
could have gotten value out of TJ McConnell. If TJ Warren wants to return, I feel like you could have gotten value out of him 2 years ago after
yeah,
the bubble. But guess what? You didn't. And
yeah,
now where are you? You're pick 6 when it's a clear top 5 in the draft, and you have no direction.
yeah,
Like maybe you take a Benedict Mathurin and hope he hits his defensive ceiling. Like there are just a lot of questions still for the Pacers, and this isn't a good landing spot for them. The team that I think did get a good landing spot, though, is the Blazers, because I think
I
the
do too.
Blazers can move this pick still. Like, I know they didn't jump up to top 4. This pick is still movable. At least they didn't drop down to like pick 10, and then all they can get for it is like Jeremy Grant. I think if you move pick 7, you try and get Jeremy Grant, I think you can make that a 3-team deal and still get other assets out of it. If you are super dedicated to making Dame happy, there are other things you can do. Or there
Yeah,
are with pick 7.
yeah. I think I have a lot of questions for the Blazers roster right now, and some of their moves that they made. Trading CJ McCollum may not be bad in the long term, but and some of these players during trades with the Jazz were injured and just to like make the money work. Like Joe Ingles, he's 34, tore his ACL, and he's tweeted out multiple times that he's probably not going to stay with the Blazers. Um, and Eric Bledsoe, he was not available for at any point since when he was traded to the Blazers.
Look,
Um,
man, I questioned all their moves at the deadline, and I kind of accepted what they were doing. Look, man, they're giving it one last run with Dame.
yep,
Going to go out, they're going to give Ayton the max, they're going to give Levine the max, they're going to give Miles Bridges the max, they're going to give they're going to give Tyler Hero the max, they're going to give Anthony Simons some money. They're going to give all these players max spots. They're going to have zero depth.
no,
That's
absolutely
my
not.
prediction. That's my prediction. I think they're going to mess it up because guess what? As we've seen from all the teams that are currently in the conference finals, the Warriors, the Mavericks, the Celtics, the Heat got Jimmy Butler, but they traded away Josh Richardson, who was seen as a rising star at
Yep.
that point in time. That iconic cover with Josh Richardson and Bam Adebayo on Sports Illustrated, where it's like two rising stars, and everyone makes fun of it because Josh Richardson isn't good anymore. Those are all drafted, sign and traded, roster built up, and you make extra little moves to build that team. And the Blazers are trying to do something completely different. I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah,
I don't.
I don't think it's gonna work either. Um, Based off, I've watched the Blazers and looking back at their choices while Damian was there, um, or well, not was there, but is there. He, they don't get talent for him. Um, CJ McCollum, who was his right hand man for so long. They traded him away, um, which still may not be a bad choice for in the future. But I just don't see anything with this roster, even with the seventh pick, how you'd be able to fix this, including like knowing the front office and what they do, and they have very lackluster off seasons. I
And
just
all the trades I see, they include Josh Hart's $10 million because oh,
yep
we need to make money work. But you know what happens when you trade away Josh Hart? You have three, four, or five players. You have like whoever you get in free agency. That is not a big rotation. And when
no
point guards hit their 30s, they start to have injury problems. We've seen Steph Curry kind of fall off recently. He has not been the same Steph Curry we saw before his 30s. Players regress, and I think that's something we have to start accepting. So when Damian Lillard makes the playoffs and then they get eliminated first round, I don't want to hear, "Oh, Dame sucks." The guy
yeah
probably will have to play like 30, 36 minutes a game, keep the Blazers competitive with the little amount of depth I guarantee you they're going to have.
yeah and I as much as people keep on hinting for Dame that he'll wants to move elsewhere, I know for a fact that he's gonna retire a Blazer. He's not gonna go anywhere unless if it's like he's what age 36 and moves just for like a year or two, just like other like
I know you
big
don't
star
want to hear
names.
it, but I feel the same way about Bradley Beal. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think he's leaving.
yeah, yeah. And then we're gonna get to him about two picks, or no, yeah, in about two
Yep,
picks.
two picks.
But
Pick eight, the Pelicans.
yeah, I'm gonna let you talk about the Pelicans because
So I wanted pick four really badly because I saw those guys all the top four picks as like game changers. Like I think they could all turn around franchises other than the Kings because the Kings you'll turn around their franchise and they'll trade you away for a bag of chips. Um, I don't know. I don't know who we take here. And because we could use like if Johnny Davis is there, as little as I like Johnny Davis, it's like we need that like our offense, we need that like shot chucker, and we don't really have that right now. And it became Garrett Temple for a while. Like after Nikhil Alexander Walker was traded, Garrett Temple
yeah,
became a shot chucker. And then in the playoffs, we didn't have a shot chucker. It's just that CJ and BI took over all those shots and they were making them. So I don't want to replace that role. I want to put that burden on our stars. So what I think we need is I think we need a backup five because at the end of the Suns games, 6'8" Larry Nance was playing center against DeAndre Ayton, and every time we had to help. And that's DeAndre Ayton.
yep,
As much as I think he could get the max this offseason and probably deserves to get the max this offseason, don't think he's a very good one-on-one basketball player unless he has like a 6-inch height advantage, which is what he had against us the entire series because Jonas Valanciunas is not a defensive center and we need that defensive center to close out games. Okay, so we have a few options. It's like Mark Williams or Jalen Duren, and that is it. So I think this pick we either move it and we try and get that backup center, packaging like Monte Graham and a Garrett Temple, or we just stick and pick a backup five, which is such a boring pick. And like, I'm mad at Jackson Hayes because he's the reason we have to do this because he can't play the five. So it's just an annoying pick to have to make, but we're gonna have to do it.
yeah. But I think at the same time there are a few free agents that might fit well with the
Have like
Pelicans for the backup five.
we have a vet min though, and if we have one hole, I think we have to use it with our draft pick.
Yeah, because I mean, for the backup five, I mean, you guys only have like two listed as actual 5 spots. That's Valanciunas and Hernan Gomez.
And Hernan Gomez is good in the regular season, but he cannot play playoff minutes.
Yeah.
It's like those backup kind of scoring, not good on defense players. They can't get playoff minutes. It's kind of like what Andre Drummond has been almost his entire career. Except Willie is a good locker room guy, so I don't think we're going to trade him. Um, yeah, there's just, I think it's either you trade it or you take a backup 5 or you take Johnny Davis if he's available because for some reason, our offensive systems really need that shot chucker that isn't an elite
Yep.
core.
Yeah, and I
Moving
think
on to this.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go
Go
no.
ahead.
No, I was just about to move on to the Spurs.
The Spurs, I really wanted to get a top 4 pick. And I know it's like, why would you want to root for a team that literally just had a dynasty? Because I think it'd be super funny for Chet Holmgren to prove everyone wrong and Pop to get another ring because they took this skinny guy who nobody believed in. They're gonna end up taking a foreign player though.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
The issue with the Spurs is that they always develop young talent, and
It's a good role players, but they can't develop young talent into superstars.
yeah, and Greg Popovich, he always likes to have veterans around and be somewhat good. I mean, they were the 10th spot, and
Every year from
Yeah.
last 3 years,
and
where they've been at the back of the play-in. Yep.
yeah, and so they don't want to be like the worst, but they also are trying to
Wanna be-
tank at the same time.
Yeah, it's a really weird system, and I think you just kind of have to accept that. Like, if you're a Spurs fan and you don't like acknowledge that that's what you are at this point, someone needs to break the bad news for you.
Yeah.
And another team who I think just doesn't want to be bad is the Wizards.
Yep. And
They're gonna pick a two-way wing and try and pair it with Beal, or they're gonna go point guard, and it's not gonna work because none of these point guards in this class are good defensively.
yeah,
I'll let you talk more about what you think your team needs, though.
yeah. So right now at the point guard position, Thomas Satoransky, Ish Smith, and Raul Neto. Those I don't see them as a starting point guard at all. They also have Cassius Winston.
Who
But-
is a Michigan goat who
Yeah.
I love, but some college players don't translate to the NBA, and it's just you got to accept that.
Yeah, but what I'm most upset about is that they didn't trade away many assets that they had, mainly because they still want to try and win with Beal, and so they decided not to trade Beal away. They kept Kuzma, who I'm pretty excited about. They kept Hachimura. As much as people would like to see him traded for a good package, I would like to keep him. But their center position, they have Kristaps Porzingis, they have Daniel Gafford, they have Thomas Bryant, who's now a free agent, and they have Vernon Carey. Those are very good centers from when I've watched them, and I think the main thing that they need is a point guard to help with Beal.
Guy who I would love to be paired up with Beal is Dyson Daniels. He's 6'6", so he has that defensive upside. He proved it in the G League. He was a solid scorer, great playmaker, good enough on defense, like that you're not let's go at this guy every play. He wasn't like Jordan Poole this year in the playoffs. He was not Marcus Smart level. He's not Drew Holiday level, but he's like like a Mike Conley before he fell off a cliff. He's like, you're not gonna go at this guy. You're gonna accept he's good enough to be there.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what they need alongside a scorer like Beal. Now, do I think the Wizards would make the playoffs with that move? Not unless Dyson Daniels comes in and is in his prime. I still think they have other moves to make. I think Wizards are a sleeper team to look out for to make like a Jeremy Grant trade or something.
Yeah, And
It's
they
just I don't know what
have,
direction they're going in. And that's like a lot of these teams right here. The Knicks, the Spurs, the Wizards, all these like borderline playing teams, I don't know what they're doing.
yeah, and just one last note on the Wizards, and then I'm gonna move on to the Knicks. Is they have many people who are about to turn 30 who you now
Yeah.
may not be able to get as much for: Contavious Caldwell Pope, Anthony Gill, because I
I still
see
think you could get something.
you
If you
could get
wanted to
something at.
blow it up, I think you could get something at a KCP. I think two-way role players are just like
Yeah,
valuable.
but I don't think that they're gonna change the roster as much just because they want to try and keep Beal, um, and try to do something with him, even though that the roster isn't too good for that. I think this would be a perfect moment to start rebuilding with Rui Hachimura, Kyle Kuzma, Denny
And look,
Avdia.
man, the Blazers have the seventh pick, and if you sign and trade the Blazers, Bradley Beal for
Yeah,
that seventh pick, like I know it doesn't fit what they want, or maybe there's just so many teams that would like Bradley Beal, in my opinion, that like are better suited to have him as that third option scorer than the Wizards are, who are trying to make him this number one option, which he just never will be. We've seen the teams that have gone
yep,
to the finals the last 15, 20 years. It is the Giannis Antetokounmpos. It is the LeBron Jameses. It is the Kawhi Leonards. It's the Tim Duncans. It's the Shaqs. It's the Kobe's. It's the D Wades. It's never been this 30-point per game scorer who the entire offense revolves around him.
yeah, and I think that our next team, the Knicks,
Such weird.
they
I don't know what they're doing.
they have so many guards, mainly point guards, that I don't. I'm not too sure what they're
I
trying to
would
do
not be
here.
surprised to see this pick moved either. This is another team where it's like I never really know what they're doing. Um, if they decide they want to move on from Randall, if they decide they want to move on from their coach, other player who might be on the move is Derrick Rose. Like if they decide they want to, Evan Fournier, you're gone. D Rose, you're gone. Alec Burks, you're gone. I doubt they're gonna do that though, because they just made the playoffs a year ago, and
Yep.
that's still in everyone's in the front office's mind. But if they decide to do that, wouldn't be surprised if that 11th pick gets moved, one of those deals, and they move up.
Well, yeah, and I'm
I
still not too sure why they still have, Derrick Rose. I mean, I know he was having injury issues this year, and like,
That's why everyone is so frustrated
yeah,
with their coaching situation. It's because nobody believes that they're going in the right direction anymore.
and the same with
Like
Kemba
before, you could
Walker.
see the progress. I don't know what that was. Like at the
No,
time of the signing, I understood it, but then when they kept playing him, I was like, please give up.
yeah, and
Please give up.
they decided to bench him or not bench him, but like rest him for the rest of the year to prepare for next season. But he's gonna be 33. Like, he's not getting any younger.
That was a lie. That was a lie. They were tanking.
Yeah,
Everyone like it's Knicks are a questionable organization. They're a questionable franchise. You had one great year from Julius Randle where he would look like the second best power forward in the NBA,
and then he got
and
his
now
contract.
contract years are crazy things, bro.
Yep.
Contract years are insane.
But yeah, I
Even
do
John
like.
Wall got paid.
Yeah, I do like their young core, even though it's very few people, like Emmanuel Quickly, Cam Reddish, R.J. Barrett.
Gotta play them. They
Yeah,
have to play them.
instead
Last year they
of
just didn't play their young guys.
and Mitchell Robinson too, instead of um, playing Derrick Rose, Kemba Walker, maybe even Julius Randle, who.
This is a great pick to reach and take like a super high ceiling guy, like a Nikola Jovic,
Yep.
or like some kind of foreign young guy. This is like the spot to do it. Look, you're gonna be a 10 seed regardless of how well your rookie plays next year, unless you make moves. So go out and shoot for the sky because you have nothing to lose. You're probably not going to make the playoffs with how tough the East is.
Yeah.
Unless Zach LaVine leaves and goes to the West, Bulls are going to consistently be in the playoffs. And all the six other teams who made it, or seven other teams who made it this year, I think the playoffs are going to stay the same, other than maybe the Cavs get in with another year of development. But like, have nothing to lose. They're going to continuously be here if they don't shoot for the stars.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with all of their guards and all of the old slash middle aged people that
Yeah.
aren't the best.
I just don't see landing spots for many of them.
Yeah,
Like unless they go out and they're like, okay, Rudy Gobert trade, let's do it. Let's say we have no direction, let's try and make a direction. That's
yeah,
kind of thing I could see them doing, and then they wouldn't really have the 11th pick. I think that would be in the package. Um, but the
but
next team, the only team that does have a direction remaining, is the Thunder again. I don't know what they're going to do here. I think anytime you try and predict what Sam Presti is going to do, you are setting yourself up for failure. They make the most random decisions, and they nearly always end up being the right one.
yeah, and
The
I don't
only time
think
it wasn't is when they traded Harden.
yeah, and I don't think that there's really much to say here because I mean we did talk about them at number two, but like again,
Another two-way wing would be very nice.
yeah,
That's all I'm saying. Those are the things that win championships. LeBron, Kawhi, Giannis, Shea, and Giddy are really nice, like second and third options. But if
yep,
you can get that solid big man or that elite two-way wing, you're a championship contender in 2 years.
yeah, especially in today's NBA when big men, the three MVP finalists were big men this year, and so
Hmm.
that's becoming a changing thing.
Other
And
teams that need big men, the Charlotte Hornets. Look, I don't know what they're gonna do. They have players they need to extend. They have Gordon Hayward, who they might need to use this pick to get off that contract.
yep,
They have to pay Miles Bridges because otherwise, you have LaMelo, James Bouknight, Ty Jones, and PJ Washington. And I'm sorry, but I think three of those four players are never making an All-Star game. I think two of those four players are never going to be NBA level starters. I think that this team needs to nail this pick. And I've said that every year since they got LaMelo, and I don't think they've nailed it ever. Now,
yeah,
this team also has the 15th pick from trading away Devonte Graham, which on you,
yeah,
incredible move. But this team needs some defense.
yep, and I mean I don't know what they were thinking that Mason Plumlee would be their good starting center.
I think they were like, "You only live once. We need we
Yeah.
need someone."
And they made the trade for Montrezl Harrell, who
I
played
think
well.
wasn't a bad move
Yeah.
because you need that guy who pushes the pace for LaMelo.
But now I think
I've listened to a lot of Hornets fans, and a lot of them say they have almost too many cooks in the kitchen, which is such a really like that's a great way to describe this team. You have
Yeah.
let's list off the shot creators: Melo, Terry Rozier,
Yep.
Knight, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges. Ty Jones is not a shot creator. I think that's about it, right?
Yeah.
That's five. Teams remaining: the Mavericks, they have Luka, they have Dinwiddie, and they have Brunson.
Yep.
The Warriors have Curry, have Clay, and they have Poole.
Yep.
Celtics, they have Tatum, Brown. That's it. Heat, they have Butler, Tyler Hero. You can throw Max Strus in there because I fucking love Max Strus.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of those teams have five shot creators.
Yeah. Absolutely not. And I think.
That's not how you win. You need defense. They don't have any.
Yeah. And I think that
Name
Montrezl Harrell.
one good perimeter defender on that team. Name one. You can't.
Yeah,
It doesn't exist.
And I think
Gordon
Montrezl
Hayward was
Harrell
supposed to be that.
was I think he's either restricted or unrestricted free agent.
It's
this year.
unrestricted. He's
Yeah.
like 29 now. He's not.
Yeah.
He's probably not coming back
No, absolutely
unless he's a
not.
backup.
Yeah.
They need a center, and guess what? There are teams before them that need centers more.
Yep. And
I think Rudy Gobert's most likely landing spot is the Hornets because LaMelo is going to get desperate. The front office is going to get desperate to please LaMelo. And then when front offices get desperate to please people, if they are not level-headed like the Pelicans front office has been, they mess up.
Yep.
Make a Russell Westbrook trade. You make um a Steve Nash trade. Make a Dwight Howard free agency trade to free up the room for Kobe to become on one of the failed super teams.
Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be
They're
interesting to see
gonna get
like how this plays out. Um, especially with LaMelo getting better every year. Um,
they have like that Luca. They have that Luca symptom where their team got too good too fast. Except LaMelo is not Luca.
yep.
Melo's not Luca.
Yep.
He's not going to carry you in the playoffs like Luca can. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to say that, but LaMelo is an all-star, all NBA caliber player. He is not top 10 potential in the
Yeah.
entire
Absolutely not.
like no, that's not who he is. I get the House of LaMelo memes. Those are funny. Luka Doncic rookie year better than LaMelo now. Hot take. I don't know if that's hot. I don't care.
Yeah, and so the last
Team that doesn't really belong here.
is the Cavaliers.
They need more two-way wings. That is about all I have to say. I think if you want to go crazy, you package this and Kevin Love and you try and get a fourth option. Uh, I don't know. There's not much you can get out there, but if you can package that 30 million, salary dump it somewhere. I don't think they're going to do that, but I think they're going to end up sticking and picking and just taking a two-way wing, because at the end of the year, they had Darius Garland and Karis LeVert taking all the
Yeah.
shots. And when Darius Garland went down, they had zero playmaking. So maybe they need another point guard, but how are you going to pitch that to your point guard?
Yeah, and
Hey, when you're not on the
plus,
court, we're terrible, so we're going to draft another one instead of paying you more.
yeah, and plus, Rajon Rondo just had that issue. So he may
Um,
not even play.
I don't. Rondo was a locker room guy. I'm not sure. I know he
Yeah,
played, but like he wasn't there to play. He was there to be a good mentor for
and now with that issue that just came
Garland.
up with him, we're not even sure if he's gonna play next
I
year.
wouldn't.
But
Maybe I know this is super unrealistic, but if they can get off that 30 million for Kevin Love, Tyler Hero, Garland Hero as an off-ball guy.
don't forget
You have a
Sexton, who had a torn
Sexton
meniscus.
is Sexton is gone. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. He
Well,
isn't. He is out the door.
yeah, I
I would be shocked if they bring him back on more than the qualifying offer.
yeah, and I think it's unfortunate because he did have his torn meniscus this year, but at the same time, he also hasn't been like
Best.
the best.
And we all knew he had a low ceiling. Like the lack of playmaking, we all thought he was really a low ceiling. So I don't know. I could see a team that just needs six-man scoring picking him up, but I don't think he has a role on this team any longer.
Yeah, and just one last note: I like Darius Garland, Colin Sexton. You could get somewhat of a package for him. Evan Mobley, who was one of the best rookies this year. I really like Laurie Markkanen
I don't
even as a 3-point shooter. And then Jared Allen.
questions about him still. I love Jared Allen. I was high on Jared Allen from the minute he was on the Nets. I
Yep.
was like, when he got traded from the Rockets to the Cavs because they wanted to let Christian Wood flourish.
Yep.
That's the whole reason. I was like, oh my, they're making the biggest mistake of their lives.
Yep. Do I have anything else to say for the Cavs? I don't think so.
I don't have anything else to say, but the one thing I do. Lakers.
They don't have a first round pick.
Don't have your first.
Or well, yeah, lottery at least. Yeah.
They're still gonna pay Lakers have been the blueprint for why you don't. Lakers and Nets have been the blueprint. Sixers too. There have been so many examples of
Yeah.
why you just don't trade every single pick and every player you have for a superstar. You build through the draft. You make one small move that elevates your team to the next level. And it's not for a superstar, it's for a good veteran leader.
Yeah, and at the same
Chris
time,
Paul,
there's
CJ McCollum,
yeah, and
Kyle Lowry for the Heat, as bad as he has been, he's been a good leader.
yeah, none of those teams have really any bench at all. The Lakers, they don't have much, and they don't have their
The
young
Nets will
core
have
either.
the Nets will have a good bench next year.
That's the only one that'll have a good bench.
It's because Harden demanded out.
Yep.
That's the only reason. Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, Ben Simmons. That's the only. Those are three players for one. It's the only reason they have a good bench.
Yeah, but at the same time, Drummond, I don't even.
He's probably
think,
gone.
And Seth Curry, once his contract is up, like he was at Sixers games watching Heat versus Sixers, and
That's
the fans really want him back. He seems to really like the city. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to the Sixers, even after what they did to him.
he's gonna go wherever pays him because
Yeah.
he has gotten screwed out of a ton of money in his career.
Yeah.
He got like minimum contract, minimum contract, minimum contract.
And he's
4
so
years,
good,
8
too.
million. Can you 4 years, 8 million for Seth Curry, who is quite literally
And he's so good too.
the most valuable role player in the league.
Yeah. That's so yeah, that's
You just
gonna be
don't
interesting.
you don't do that anymore. I am excited for the Cavs to have a lottery pick though. I was concerned when if they had barely made the playoffs and then get eliminated first round. It's like, okay, now you don't have your lottery pick. Sure, this season was a success because you made the playoffs, but you were like the 3 seed. So that's all
Yeah.
I have to say.
Yeah.
You can
and-
outro it.
Yeah, that's also all I have to say. So basically, this was just recapping the lottery and who we think should go to each team, what would be a good fit, and that's about it. Do you have anything else to say?
Subscribe.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Subscribe, everyone. And this was Through the Whistle Sports. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all later.